Hi, this is Dina for Splitcoaststampers. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to use cutting dies to create the outline for this colored glitter inlay effect. To begin, you'll need a thick panel to work with. You can either use matte board like this ATC from Inchy Arts, or you can create your own panel that's about the same thickness. This is about 1/16 of an inch thick. I found that 2 layers of chipboard topped with cardstock works just about the same as the matte board. And to get my panels to line up perfectly, I'm cutting them out with a Spellbinders die. You don't have to use fancy chipboard for this. Here you can see I'm just using a cereal box. What you want to do here is build up a surface that can't be cut clear through with a standard wafer die. So about 1/16 of an inch is what we're going for here. I want to prepare my top surface for the glittering technique by covering it completely with double-sided adhesive, and since I'm going to die cut this piece, I'll go ahead and cover it before cutting so the edges will be clean after it's cut. You can use tape in a wide roll like this, or you can use adhesive sheets. And here I have 3 identical panels that I can layer together with some glue. I'm using tacky glue to adhere my pieces together. I like to have a little bit of time to be sure that my panels are lined up just right, and the liquid glue gives me just a little bit of wiggle room if I'm a little off at first. Make sure that your glue is dried completely before you run this panel through your die cutting machine again, or you will have a mess. I usually put a panel like this under a heavy book to dry so it dries very flat. For the next step, I'm going to use a die to cut an outline into the surface of my panel, and since this panel is thicker than what I would normally cut, I need to make some adjustments to the plates of my die cutting machine. I'm using a Big Shot, so I'm switching my base plate to tab 1. Then I'll layer a cutting plate, my panel with the die on top, and I tape that into place. Another cutting plate, and then 2 chipboard shims, and that usually works for me to give a thickness that's just right for cutting into the surface of the panel. You can adjust the shims as you need to if 2 isn't the right amount for you. You want to feel the same pressure as you do when you cut something at regular thickness. Don't try to force your machine if it doesn't feel like it wants to go through. Here's my cut piece, and you can see as I remove the die that it's cut through the liner of the adhesive, but not through the entire piece. The next step is to remove the liner paper inside the outline of the die. You can use a piercing tool or a craft knife to get under an edge to pull it up. If you've pieced adhesive tape together like I did here to cover your surface, be careful around the seam lines and watch for pieces that might be overlapping that line. Now in all the places where I've just removed that liner, the adhesive is exposed. And the next thing I'm going to do is to sprinkle clear microfine glitter over that area and then press that into the adhesive. You may have seen this type of technique done with colored glitters, and that technique has beautiful results. I, however, am working with limited supplies, and this is the only color that I have. What's amazing about microfine glitter, though, is that it can be colored with alcohol markers, and I do have a few of those. So I'm going to go ahead and color the glittered area with my alcohol markers, and I'm starting with my lightest color, and I'll layer and blend colors with other markers just as I would normally color on a paper surface. And the nice thing about having just this small area exposed is that the liner paper keeps my coloring in the lines even if I stray beyond the glittered area. So as I'm coloring this focal image, it's kind of like coloring in a stencil, and when I lift the remaining liner paper off, you'll see what a clean outline is really left. And the final effect of the coloring is kind of like a no-line image because the die cut just fades into the background. You don't see an outline at all. You can see how easily the markers color on the glitter, and really how easy it is to add shading to this coloring as well, just by a few small strokes with a darker color. The next step is to remove the remaining liner paper from the panel, and then you'll have a whole new surface to put glitter on. And that surface can be left white or it can be colored in. If you're not sure if the glitter that you have is fine enough to color on with markers, try it on a small area of adhesive first before you start working on a larger panel. I'm going to begin coloring my background in now, and I've just used a straight edge to create a horizon line for my little scene, and I'm filling in that ocean area with a turquoise blue. When you color in the background of your scene, you no longer have that liner paper as a guide, so you do need to be a little more careful with your coloring so you don't get into the areas that you've colored already. For the sky area, I'm using a lighter blue, and when I do skies, I just create outlines where clouds might be and leave those areas white. Here's my completed card. I added some little half pearl coconuts to the trees that I colored with an alcohol marker to match. I hope you'll try this technique out and share your results in the gallery. Thank you so much for watching.